Dear Diary.
Dear Diary.
Dear Diary, wow, today was a really hard day.
Dear Diary, I find sometimes my life can be hard.
Dear Diary, it will pass and it will be okay.
Dear Diary, I feel like today is going to be...
Shh, the Indigo Diaries.
Dear Diary, welcome to the Indigo Diaries. First, let me introduce you back to Series 1, The World Through Our Eyes, with me, Natasha Hickling. The Indigo Diaries is a podcast for those who want to learn about ADHD through others' experiences. Thank you to everyone for coming and listening. And if this is your first time, then welcome. And if you're returning, then welcome back, of course. Welcome back to Series 1. And I'm just a reminder that you'll be getting so many more guests in this series. I'm so excited after I took a break from this series. And it's just amazing the kind of the impact that I've had with people reaching out. And I'm not going to keep rambling on. I'm going to get on with our next guest. And this guest is someone who reached out to me after I put one of the social media posts out, asking for people to come and share their stories. And we met, and it's quite funny, we met for a quick chat last week and it turned into an hour chat and I could have carried on. I actually was late to my next appointment because I could have spoke to this lady for absolutely ages. And I love when you meet someone, it just instantly click. So we welcome you, Christine.
Thank you. Good morning from Canada. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for carving out this time for me. I know that we're both busy, but I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, me too. And let me tell you a bit about Christine before we get started. So Christine is a newly diagnosed, but definitely not newly aware ADHD'er. She is an entrepreneur and has recently launched a coaching business called Indigo NLP Coaching that provides support to ADHD adults. She loves working with neuro-diverse adults as she has taken an understanding and lived experience of this journey that life has on an adult with ADHD provides. She's a dog mum, cat mum, and a human mum, and a new grandma. And as true ADHD, dopamine hits are her favorite, and she loves dog walking, home reno, and making her kitchen really messy by cooking and baking. She's creative, has a sense of humor, works hard, and is a good listener, and loves knowing people's stories. I love that. And if you want the full bio, it's in the description as always below. So, Christine, I just want to get started. So, my famous question: when did ADHD first come into your life?
I remember as a very small child, I lived on a farm out in the country, and I remember that there was always something on the go. I remember being able to go from thing to thing to thing. I remember a lot about my parents trying to rein me in on the actual physical activity that went on all day long for me, that I wasn't someone until the evening when I was absolutely exhausted. I wasn't a little person to sit down. I was constantly in motion.
Constantly, all the time.
Yeah. Being on a farm lends itself to being able to do so many things. From being on a tire swing to going into the barn to be with animals, to chasing the dog, to going inside and eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, to racing back outside again. Back in my childhood, TV was off during the day.
Wow.
There was a half hour to 1 hour of TV time in the late afternoon. And so we were farm kids. There were 4 of us. And I in particular was the runner. I was the runner, the goer, and the doer.
Wow. So it's been in your life since back then.
Yeah.
I like that. I love that. You're a runner, a goer, and a doer. And I suppose the living on a farm allowed for that then.
Yeah. So I remember too about so many conversations, more with my mom. My dad was gone a lot. So I remember more with my mom about coming in and I had scraped myself or cut myself or done something where there was some kind of scrape, skin, and blood involved. And she asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I got upside down and I was hanging from the rope in the barn and seeing how far I could swing, and then the rope broke, so I fell. Or I tried to stand on my bike and go down the hill. Well,
oh my goodness. I bet your mum was running around that house and that farm.
She had Band-Aids in hot supply and ice packs, just things, bumped heads, it was just one of those childhoods where it was, you're kind of, mom was there, but you're off to your own devices. And I really liked that a lot. And did lots of risky things that probably, I didn't ask permission.
Well, we ask for permission later. It's better to just do it and then ask him for permission, right?
Yeah. Another great example, risky behavior. I dug up an anthill.
Anthill?
The biting, stinging ants, but I didn't know at the time how deep the anthill was. So I put my hands and my face right down because I wanted to see the thousands of ants that were pouring out of this anthill. Wow. And so they came all over the front, all over my hands, my arms, my face, my chest. And, hey, let's see what's in this anthill. Again, like this ADHD, impulsivity and no real consideration for what the consequence is going to be here because I didn't know I was a kid. Look at this big anthill. Let's go see what they're doing today.
I love that. The curiosity is just all over when you're a kid. You don't think about the consequences. You don't think about what's going to happen later.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I saw so many awesome things as a kid on a farm, like I saw live births of cows and kittens and dogs, things that, city kids don't get to see. Yeah. And it's just all of those lessons of, ooh, boy, and that I just sort of continued into my teens of
just risky behavior. So you said that kind of, when I said, when did ADHD come in your life, and you kind of started from when you were kids. So it was already started right back then. And do you still have those kind of vivid memories of kind of knowing back then?
Knowing, but not knowing that my siblings weren't as busy as me, but that was just me because I was just busy. So where the rubber really hit the road was when I went to school.
Yeah.
And I think the system took about 2 or 3 years to catch up to me. And finally, in my 3rd grade, there was a decision to put me into special programming.
Okay.
And I didn't know what special programming meant. I knew that I stayed on the bus a little bit longer and I got dropped off at a different school than my siblings, and that I went to this school all day. And then just before the end of the other school's class, this bus came and picked me up, and then I went home again. And I did that for a year. And I had no idea what that was all about. And then there was never any conversation about it ever again until about 3 years ago, when my father said to me, that was a school that we took you to or signed you up to, where the university child psychology students and faculty were monitoring you to understand your busyness and how the cycles of when you were being so active / hyperactive, how that was playing out with your learning. Mm-hmm. So I was actually being monitored in a specialized school for specialized kids. So,
wow.
Yeah.
How was that when you found out?
This happened about 3 years ago that I really had the conversation with him about what that school was all about. Then I got my diagnosis last year, and I thought, then I put all of that together. And when I started to put it together, I got so sad to say that here I am, this little kid. I was maybe 8 years old. And I'm in this school away from my siblings and away from my classmates, and I was being monitored, kind of, I felt like a little bit lab monkey type kind of deal. I don't remember any of it, which is another symptomology of ADHD is that we have repressed things that we don't always think about. But I don't remember it being as a child. I don't remember it being as devastating as I felt it last year after my diagnosis and starting to think about that, about all of the circumstances in my life where I did crazy things and my behavior was risky, or I had difficulty with managing my emotions. And it was really, I'm just finding it now when I'm looking back, I'm going, yeah, boy, there's a lot of the things about ADHD that were so going on, but there wasn't a label for it.
Yeah, you do that when you get diagnosed. You like piece it, or it's like a jigsaw of your life. You get like a timeline out and like, oh yeah, that makes sense there. That makes sense there. So when you look back at that time of your life, what happened after you were you at that school for a long time, or?
No, it was just I was at the school for a year. Now, let me put a year label so that you actually know how old I am.
Okay.
So this is the beginning of the 70s.
Okay.
Right? And there was no ADHD label for children. There was special needs. There was difficult. There was out of control. So listening to that made me a bit sad, just in retrospect from a year, and having all of this sort of disclosure that makes everything in my life make sense now. Like it all just fits so amazingly well. I'm somebody's grandma now, like very new. Oh my God, my whole heart. And high school was, just kind of go back there as well too. I don't remember a lot about high school. I remember eking by. I remember doing really well in junior school and in high school in the things that matter to ADHD kids: art, writing, creative writing. Oh, recess. I was a professional recess girl.
Yes, I love that. Professional recessor. I love that. I've never heard that. I really love that. What does that look like?
Oh, that means that I was the first one out the door for recess and the last one in.
I bet you got an A star in that, didn't you?
Oh, yes. Gold stars. I remember in high school that maths and sciences were hard, so hard. I failed math all 4 years in high school and I had to take math again. Now, one of the key things to understand is that my father was a mathematician and a physicist.
Oh, I bet that went down well, didn't it?
Oh, like lead bricks. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there was all of that where he is in my room and we're doing homework at night and he is trying to pound mathematics and arithmetic and trig and all of that stuff that just wasn't going to happen in my brain. Yeah. And I remember thinking, but I like people. And having that thought of this stuff seems rather dumb to me because I'm never going to use it. Because I like people.
I like that. I like people. People, and I can tell that. I can tell by the way you are now and the way you are now that you like people. And how did that, when you were a kid, what was like friendships like when it came to high school?
Oh my gosh. I had so many friends, like diversified friends too. Okay. So I had some good girls, lots of good girls that came from good families and we did good girl stuff. And then later on in high school, I had some bad girlfriends. And then there was the smoking and the boys and the drinking and the parties. like that all because, hey, I'm a people person.
The risky
So-
behavior started coming out.
Yeah, so I could take the good girls home to my parents and they would love them, but my parents would never meet the bad girls or the bad boys. And it was my own little secret.
Your double life. I love it.
Yeah. And there's so many things that I just feel like are so important in this retrospective thought of understanding going through high school. I never figured any of it out. Yeah, sure. But I was attracted to all of the things that were moving. I did a lot of sports. I was competitive figure skating from the time that I was, I skated from the time that I was 4 years old.
Wow.
Up until the time that I was 16 and was in competitive figure skating. So that was a real physical outlet.
Yeah.
I was on the ice at 6:30 in the morning, off ice at 8:30 in the morning, walked to high school because it was right across from where where the rink was. And I did that probably 3 days a week. And then I skated on the weekends and then I skated at night. Like, the physical outlet of that. Yeah. And then in the summer times, I played summer sports and we had a farm and there are things to do on a farm in the summer that keep a body busy.
So do you think that keeping your body busy kind of like helped you, and having those outlets helped you get through kind of school?
I think I'm not sure about helping me get through school. I think, though, that it was a definite release because, as many of us know who do ADHD coaching, we know that the physical movement of someone who has ADHD is exponentially important.
Yes, it is.
But not knowing that, keeping me busy and active and giving me things to do that required busyness. I remember my sisters got things to do that were a little bit quieter, like making lists, like helping in doing things in the kitchen with mom. And I was the one that went outside and I shoveled manure. I threw around hay bales. I swept out garages. I cleaned machinery in the shed. So I kind of did that, back in the day, what they would have called tomboy stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was because my parents recognized my need for movement, or it was just because I was good at that. I don't know how thorough I was at that. I just don't know. But it's really interesting. And then I fast forward to ending high school, doing a year of finding a job working in hospitality, because
busy
people, all my favorite things, right? So people, food, booze, and building relationships. So hospitality provided that for me. So I took a year, did a hospitality 1 year leave, worked at a golf course, had a blast of a time, and again did some risky stuff, but at that point, I was almost an adult, so just living how I was. Then I went to school in Toronto. So the farm girl from this little town in Southern Ontario goes to a school in Toronto, and with no physical parental support at all, I found an apartment. I took buses everywhere because I missed bus stops and connecting buses that went north, south in Toronto. If anybody knows about those, the bus system there. I started school by myself. I got an apartment by myself. I bought books and went to school and did homework. And I don't understand at this time in my life how I did all of that all by myself. So when we look at ADHD coaching and ADHD in young adults, we look at things like how do you develop coping skills to do the things that you need to do all day long? And so this is it, right? This is me figuring it out. Yeah, I missed some classes. Yeah, I got it figured out. Yeah, I met some really great people. I have 5 women in my life that I have now known for almost 40 years.
Wow. From Toronto.
From Toronto, from that school, from being together and developing as young people through all our whole adulthood to now. And these women know who they are. And they know who I'm talking about. But there are long-term relationships with lots of people that I've had. And then there are the people that sort of weave in and out of your life. And they're the people that, there was a thing a long time ago there, people come in for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that. And people that are reasons and seasons are there to teach you. And so I'm always open to just making new friends. And I love that piece of me that allows new people to come into my life all the time.
Oh, I love that. Well, you're a people person, right? That's what you said since you were a kid.
Yeah.
So what?
Yes.
So you're in Toronto and you're I love that you just kind of did it. And sometimes it works though, like that change of environment, the change of pace, the change of things. And you kind of just, like you said, that coping mechanism where that massive transition where you kind of have to do it, right? Because if not, then what are you going to do? What happened after that?
So after school, you mean after graduation? After graduation, I got my first big girl job. I have no idea how I got that job, but it was working at the city's largest convention center, managing food and beverage services for one of the restaurants in the convention center.
Wow, that's interesting.
Like, how did I do that? And I remember I was having this kind of Mary Tyler Moore in the big city, throwing up her hands and going, yeah. I remember coming out of work one day, probably after a 13-hour shift, because I remember about those days when I worked, a 10-hour shift was a short day.
Wow.
But I just had the energy for it.
Yeah.
I was young. I was newly graduated. I wanted to figure out what I needed to do about, all of this industry. I loved the job. I loved working with people. I loved people that came into the restaurant. I was, feeling at the time like I'm so in my jam here. This is great. And then I started to have some problems. And my problems on this first job were, again, in retrospect, they were the things that are my less than strong character traits or strengths, I guess, in the parts of the job that required long levels of concentration. So paperwork.
Yeah.
Ordering supplies, filling out the paperwork, doing timesheets.
Oh, yeah.
I was great front of the house. Back of the house, I needed help.
And how did you get that help? Did you get that help?
I did not get that help because I never asked for it.
Yeah.
And so here we are now creating this theme for a lot of the times for the next many years where I don't ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I created this narrative in my head that there's something wrong with the job. There's something wrong with the boss. There's something wrong with the policy. My God, this place is wacky because the policies are awful here, full of red tape. And my God, how can somebody ever be expected to follow all of this? And that theme really, that's, to me now, with what I know now, it's the most refreshing thing to understand that, it was me. And I went through that and I created that narrative in my head right until very, very recently. That it wasn't the ADHD. It was people with wacky policies and dumb paperwork and things you needed to do first before you could do other things. So that I'd find workarounds while I do the other things first. Because Natasha, that ADHD is about interest. It's not about a deficit. It's not a deficit. It's not a deficit at anything. It's about interest. And if you're not interested, then it doesn't happen. I'm not interested in policy and procedure. I'm interested in going out and speaking publicly. I'm interested in doing the things that are all my very, very top areas of function. And what we call executive function, in ADHD coaching, we call it executive function. So I want to do the things that I'm strong in. And I actually had probably 2 or 3 managers at very high levels say that to me, Christine, in that sort of disciplinary but informational tone.
I hate that bit. I hate that.
Yeah, just so you know, Christine, that kind of tone. I had managers that, we'd be in a meeting somehow and they would say, but you're not good at this. This is an area that you need to develop. And I would be screaming in my head.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
About, but this way of doing things that you've got here is dumb. It's stupid. It's so, it drags down the processes and stops me from doing the things that I'm really good at. I can make you money. I did make money. I made money in a lot of the programs. I created things in my own heads that were workarounds that rewarded my dopamine, which is the chemical that makes us feel good. Yeah. I had to, in my own mind, create these things that were rewards for me. Yeah. So I can work away for a little while, but then I got to go talk to somebody because that's my dopamine reward.
Yeah.
Or I need to, send an email to a girlfriend. I mean, this is way before cell phones and text messages for a lot of this big piece of my development was much more before this. So you had to really work at getting that reward. Yeah. But I don't know about these rewards. I don't know about dopamine. I don't know about ADHD. I know that I'm different. I know that that I have amazing skills and I'm a great people person and I love putting people together and I like the ability to have all of my things come together because of the way that I put them together. Because again, there's another dopamine reward for me. I did this. And it's not a brag. It's not bragging.
No, of course not.
It's a sense of accomplishment because of all of the negativity that I'd heard throughout my whole sort of like mid-high school level. You don't do this and you're not doing this. And you need to pay attention and sit down and be quiet.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that after the break, because this is one of the things I remember when I spoke to Christine was this: sit down, be quiet, and we're gonna come back to that. And I'm in trance. I've never been so still in one of these. I was just in trance, just listening to everything that you're saying, because I can resonate so much with that. And we're going to come back with Christine because I can't wait to see where this goes. So, and we're out. If you would like any more information on Indigo Hub or our Indigo support group, then please check out our website below or our link to our social media platforms, or email at indigohub.adhd@gmail.com. If you would like to offer any comments, feedback, get support, or if you're interested in the world hearing your story, then please reach out through any of our avenues. As said before, have a positive week. Check in again later. And we're out. And we're back. And as always, we start talking and it's like, right, let's start recording. So we're back with Christine. And in the first half, we were talking a lot about childhood, a lot about farm life, and a lot about really interesting stuff to do with what happened to her when she went and got a job and how the dopamine boost and she lived to her strengths. But then when it came to the other stuff, the back room of the job, it kind of didn't really work out there. And obviously that comes when we've got ADHD. So we kind of ended with this: sit down, be quiet, pay attention. And I remember this, I wrote this in capital letters when we've met, because yeah, I mean, I've heard it so many times, and I think a lot of people listening will have heard this so many times. So you tell us kind of what this phrase, sit down, be quiet and pay attention, means with you.
Yeah, it's a real negative trigger. And there are a lot of those with both diagnosed and undiagnosed. And the majority of people who have ADHD don't even know it. And we need to remember, too, that ADHD is a spectrum. So it's not like you just have this and you do this and you do this and you do this, and this makes you a bad person. Because you do these things, you are wrong or naughty or awful or not paying attention. You don't care.
Yeah.
When you hear that over and over and over again, you hear that from parents. You hear that from your friends' parents. You hear it from your friends. Why don't you remember everything we talk about? Why don't you remember every specific detail? Because I remember everything you say. I always remember it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in my head, well, maybe I'm just more interesting.
Sorry, I love that. I like that. That's a good way to think.
Maybe I have a better way of storytelling than you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking in my head. Not that there's a deficit in my ability to take in all your information or to remember. So here's two things, right? So the ability to have the working memory, and then the ability to take all that information and process it at the speed that I need to process it.
Yeah.
There's such a thing also too. I mean, there's the technicalities of something called cognitive load.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Natasha, like so much since I've started coaching and since I've started, this real, very extremely interesting with a capital I, because there we are again.
Yeah,
this,
we are.
My studies and this coaching that I'm doing now with people, it is all so relational and so interesting for me that my brain is on fire.
Yeah.
And has been for a long time. So just to backtrack a little bit. So I graduate from school, I get a couple of jobs. I then have, we just kind of fast forward because it's all a big muddle. Yeah. Then I have 2 kids. I have a husband. And I don't have a husband. Then I have another husband. Then I have, right? So there's like all these people that interweave throughout your life. All of this time, while I'm doing all of this, I'm still going to school because I'm still searching. I go to school for human resource management because remember, I like people.
Yeah.
I went to school for hospitality management because I like people.
I can see that, yeah.
My next new adventure, and I am on the honor roll. It takes me 4 times the amount of time to learn something than it does someone who's neurotypical.
Yeah.
Which is someone without ADHD.
Yeah.
I do things to the 10th degree because I have to learn it, read it again, read it again, read it again, read it again.
Read it again, read it again, keep going.
Write it out, put it in orange highlighting.
You put it on your wall for somewhere, put it somewhere else. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. So I do that another 4 times. I go to school and get 4 diplomas.
Wow.
But then I think, and this is in the scope of working full time, having 2 children, husband who works shift work. It was crazy. I don't know how I did it.
I don't know how you did it. More to interest.
Yes, interest and potential. You have so much potential, Christine. Again, another nice thing to say to someone who hasn't heard all that negativity before, but in another person's mind who's had that constant sort of bashing of your ability and your cognition. You have so much potential.
What does that
mean? That you're not living up to your potential right now. And you're going to have to work really hard to live up to your potential. So again, more of this sort of negative, derogatory stuff that it impedes your ability to be proud of the things that you can do. I remember sitting in job interviews and people say, "So tell me a little bit about yourself." Ooh, God, do I have to? Why can't you just?
I hate that question. You never know. Your mind always goes blank. I never know what to say.
And I had some pretty high profile job interviews. And I remember people who would, in job interviews, would layer a question. So it's not just a question. So tell me about the time you did this, and then what happened, and how did that work out, and what was the ending outcome? What? Oh, and I'm in trouble because I've listened to the first question, then I've listened to the last question because the last question is the most familiar to me. And in my mind, I answer the outcome question, not the problem. Like we're talking job interviews galore here, right? Like I'm surprised I get jobs because I get hired. I feel like I get hired for a lot of the jobs that I had, and I had some great jobs. And I feel like I got those jobs because of my personality and my passion and my enthusiasm that came through so strongly.
Yeah.
And if someone had actually recognized that it was ADHD, then there would have been a possible different outcome.
Yeah. And then that would have been the last question. What's the outcome? So you said that you were diagnosed in 2020. So how did that kind of, it's kind of been in your life all your life, but you've not kind of known about it, or known but not known. So how did that kind of come about?
The diagnosis, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. And on a bit of a serious note, actually, is that I was working at a pretty big job, lots and lots of responsibilities. I was managing programs. I was hiring faculty. I was responsible for all of the revenue. I was responsible for developing new programs. Huge job. Yeah, but you know what I liked? I liked meeting new people and hiring faculty. I liked designing new programs. I liked developing new ideas to have the new programs. I didn't want to put the piece of paper together for submitting the idea so that people could see this 11-page document that you had to submit to have your programs approved. Ick, no thanks. So my things were missing. There were things missing in my documents, not because I wanted to, but because it was one of those icky paperwork things that was very difficult. And again, what people didn't see on the surface was that I was doing 20 hours of labor to get that document that other people would have spent 3 hours putting together.
Yeah, they don't see what happens behind closed doors.
Yes. And then I was sending that document off for approvals, and there were errors in it that I didn't catch. Classic ADHD.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you do this, Christine? And why didn't you do that? And why didn't you pay attention? Trigger.
Yeah.
To what you were doing because of all of these errors that's in this document. Oh, yeah. I guess I should have been paying attention. but I feel like I did nothing but pay attention.
Yeah.
Right. And so over and over and over and over again in this role, it became very apparent that this I was not in over my head, because the things that were my spark and my glitter and made me sparkle were the things that I was really great at, which was developing and hiring staff, which was making $250,000 in revenue.
Which
right?
was meeting people, and it always comes back to
Because
that. Yeah.
Meeting the right people, having great faculty, having a great support system for running the programs that were my responsibility, for having the idea to create new things that made the money, to add new things into the programs so that it made the money. But I never, ever got the credit because of all of the errors.
Yeah.
You know, and that came to a head last year when I was made to understand, or made to feel like my skills were not a match. And it was unbelievably devastating.
I bet, yeah.
And at that point, there was a decision that I couldn't do this role. There was a decision made. And again, I'm in this position of, oh, but what about all the good things that I did?
Yeah.
Well, you know, then the negative stuff comes, right? The feedback.
Yeah.
But you don't do this. You don't do this. You're really weak in this. But what about all the things that I did? And it just didn't matter.
Yeah, because of all the things that you didn't do.
Yeah.
Go way more for people than all the things that you do. Yeah.
Right. And we really need to change that as a society.
Yeah,
I think.
we really do.
Like,
yeah.
Not just with ADHD people, but the negativity is so much more reinforced than anything that's positive. Oh, great job on that. But hey, you missed this and this and this and this.
Yeah. It's that but, or however.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the but word, right?
Yeah.
With the but word erases from a linguistic, because I'm trained in something called neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
And the word but erases anything good that was said previous to that.
Yeah.
In someone's mind and in someone's subconscious, the word but is a full stop.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I try and I'm trying to right now erase that word from my my own vocabulary.
Yeah, I have also been trying that for the last year as well with my coach. Yeah, but I say and rather than but.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of pseudo words too, like however.
Yeah. Which is but it's not as but. It's just 3-letter word, right? That's just so triggering.
However is a little softer term for but.
Yeah. It's a little soft. It's longer as well. So there's more time to think.
Yeah. I just wanted to also just address a couple of things.
Yeah, of course.
As I could talk about this for days, honestly.
We all could. That's why we have timers, right?
Yeah. So I think about things about my own ADHD in this retrospect that I've got going on right now. And I think about money. And people with ADHD typically, not always, typically have a hard time with money.
Oh, yes.
Because of our impulsivity, because of our justification for our needs, and because of that dopamine hit. We spend money on things that we feel that we need because it provides that hit.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Has that been something that's come up in your life a lot?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. My shoe wardrobe and my clothing wardrobe is testament to that.
I love that. Just look in the wardrobes, you'll know.
Yes. Shoes, clothes, and handbags. Oh my goodness.
Everyone's got to have their guilty pleasures.
They're easy, quick, relatively inexpensive hits.
Yeah.
That give you pleasure. Right?
Yeah,
So people run into that. People with ADHD run into that. The relationship part of ADHD means that, you have to pick people to be in your life that honor and understand the things that you do are not because you're not interested in them and that you don't pay attention to them. It's just that you have other things that are going on. It's not that it's non-interesting. I can go for a walk with a very good friend of mine and I take the dogs and we chat like crazy. And I can leave that conversation and go, that was so lovely. And I can literally drive home for 6 minutes from the place that we've had the walk and go, I remember we talked about this thing, but I don't remember what it was at the end that she said. And it's literally happened 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm not interested. It's because it's gone somewhere else in my head. And then I can pick it up later. But if somebody wanted a recap of what we had just done together and said together, then I wouldn't be able to do it.
What about keeping in touch with people?
Waves. That's very wavy. That's very wavy for me. And with the ability to have cell phones now, the cell phone is an absolute dream for someone with ADHD, because now I don't need to schedule time to sit down to a landline telephone and be tied. Really, right? Like, I don't need to be tied to sitting on the couch and having a cup of tea and making a 2-hour time investment to phone everybody.
Yeah, on a cord.
Yeah. And yes, there are some communication things that I struggle with. I have girlfriends that are like, hey, you, knock, knock, where are you? I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. I'm like, really? 2 weeks? Oh, hey, good, I'm fine. And then I go in with this litany of things that I've done in the last 2 weeks. And they're like, wow, okay, so we should do coffee. Yeah, sure. Let's do coffee. But I just told you I just told you everything. I gave you all the highlights of everything you need to know.
Yeah, we do that. Highlights. If there's no highlights, then I've probably not contacted people. Yeah.
So, I mean, and this kind of stuff continues. I also wanted to say, because it's one of the most proudest moments of my life. I wanted a university degree. It was the thing that was my nemesis that I'd never done. So I graduated with my university degree at 50 years old.
Woo! Yay!
And graduated with honors.
Wow.
And I remember standing on the podium thinking, oh my God, the imposter syndrome that I'm having right now of, is this really happening? Is this me? And I look out to the audience and I see my husband and my daughter. My son couldn't come that day, but I could see them looking at me with such pride, and me looking at them. Sorry, this is very emotional.
Oh, you're okay.
And me looking at them and going, who is this on the stage that did this?
You did that.
It was me.
It was you.
Yeah.
You did that. Is that something that you...
With honors too. And I remember the person on the stage who puts on all the robes and does all the colorful things that they drape on you. And when you have an honors degree, they drape you with an additional, it was like a gold rope. And I remember asking this to the person that was putting on the rope and saying, what's this for? Because this other person doesn't have it. And she says, but honey, you have honors. This is what you get when you have honors. And I almost had a meltdown right on the stage. I almost couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do with all of the stuff that was going through my body and my head at the time. Pride, absolutely. But thinking, well, this is some pretty serious recognition. so cool, very cool now to realize it.
Yeah. But back then
No.
it was like, is this for me? Are you sure not for her?
Yeah. But like, you should probably put that on the next girl, because that's probably not mine.
Yeah. But I love that you did that. Like, you did that before your diagnosis, before all that, you did that. And even though you had that imposter syndrome, you did that.
Yeah. And the absolute hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of studying, of putting together presentations for school, of doing it as an adult, and the value of that, and then working in a system that rewards education. So for me, that was like, oh yeah, I can apply so much of this to what I'm doing in my roles, because I worked in education for 21 years.
Mm. Wow.
And so, having it apply to me was the probably like the, a big dopamine hit of all time.
Yeah. And it kept going. So you mentioned the coaching now. So I would love to hear about that. I love that you were I remember meeting you last time, and I was like, you're diagnosed and then you just went straight. I just love that you went straight into the coaching. I think that's amazing. And I just think that's so inspiring. So tell us a bit about that.
So the coaching goes back a long way for me, actually, but it doesn't go back into that sort of solidified, you should do this professionally or anything. Yeah. But I did it professionally. I did it professionally for probably 25 years that I've been doing it, not as the recognizable term of my role, but through working in HR, working in placement services, but most of all, working in roles within education and being a student advisor. That's all coaching.
Yeah, it is.
And I distinctly remember a man coming to my desk, and a grown man saying, I can't do online courses. And I said, of course you can. And I'm going to help you. And I'm going to tell you what they're like. I'm going to tell you what you can expect. I'm going to give you all the things that you need to know. And we're going to sign you up for one online course, because I want you to see. And I'm going to give you the easiest online course that you can do, because I want to see your success at the end of it. And I stayed in touch with him for the whole semester. And I didn't do this with there was something about this guy. It was one of these. And this had to be 15 years ago, when online courses were kind of like a little bit more awkward and awful.
not like they are now, not as accessible as they are now. Yeah.
Exactly. So then he comes to me after the first semester. He's just written his exams. He got his exam mark back, and he's at like a 93%.
Wow.
And I went, really? So now you can do online courses. What's next? And he goes, what do you think?
Yeah.
And that's where, like, the real, for me, he said, I can't believe you've talked me into this. This is amazing. This allows me to be at home in my pajamas. I can study at night. I don't have to worry about being away from my family. I'm away from my family all day, blah, blah, blah. All the coaching things that I did to make him understand and recognize that this was going to be difficult, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, there's a way forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I said to him, if I can do it, then you can do it. And he looked at me in the role that I was in, and he goes, well, how is it hard for you? You work here. And I really took that kind of answer as so that's how people view it. So again, like one of these teachable moments from someone who doesn't know that they're teaching you something.
Yeah.
And
it started back then.
I love it. I so love it. And that kind of coaching continued all the way through, working one-on-one with people and working with some difficult students too.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
But hey, that's part of that. That's part of the thing. And, the easy ones teach you things, but the harder students teach you more.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. They're the ones that you get. Yeah, I know that completely. So I love that it started back then, and you maybe not, it may be the definition of your job is not coach, but most people I hear that say they're coaching, they've been doing it so long, it's just natural, and you love people, so it's natural. So what's next for you in coaching?
My clients that I have been coaching so far, and in the very recent history since the diagnosis, are absolutely nodding their heads and pushing me forward and saying, my God, you've only been doing this work for a year. And I say, no, I've been doing this work for 25 years. I'm just getting recognized for my ability and pushing forward with this love of working with people. Because as you know, I'm a people person.
I didn't know that. Did anyone else know that?
I'm just going to say that for the first time today.
I love that. But I love that for the first time I'm getting recognized for as a coach.
Yeah. And being really, and having that recognition from my clients that say, you've changed my life. Dopamine, 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 dopamine.
It's the biggest one.
Yeah, and they have no idea what they're doing to me and for me by giving me what I need. And I'm giving them what they need. Who's losing here?
No one.
Yeah. And so this is where I am now. My business is getting off the ground. I love working one-on-one with people. I have a ton of ideas of how I want to progress and what kind of things I want to offer. I'm very interested. My website is developed. It's off and running. You can reach me at indigonlpcoach.com. I am on Indigo NLP Coach on Facebook and Indigo NLP Coach on Instagram as well.
Okay, and all of that information will be below, and because Christine's going to send it me after this. So all of this information will be below, and I love it. And it's funny because we only realized when I got Christine's bio that her coaching business was called Indigo too, and I was like, oh wow, it's like one of those moments. It's like,
it's
yes,
synchronicity. It's synchronicity. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So wow, I mean, just thank you for taking us through this. You know, it's a lot to go through in 1 hour, and thank you for kind of giving us a piece of your life and a piece of your experience, because I know people will be able to relate to this, because I know I have.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I mean, this is amazing for me. I look forward to doing all kinds of things together. I think we have great synchronicity and great chemistry between the two of us. I look forward to the future.
Yeah, and Christine will be back for series 3, which I'm very excited about. She's promised me she'll come back as a coach, and we're going to be doing a coaching episode as well. Probably maybe multiple. She's coming back, so don't worry, she's coming regular on here. So what would you like to kind of, any last thoughts?
Last thoughts of be yourself, understand your power. I absolutely love the term of superpower. Don't let the negativity get into your head, because what someone might say is negative, you can turn around and interpret that as a positive and as something that's in your bank of superpowers. You don't just have 1 or 2. As an adult with ADHD, you have a whole garden full of superpower.
Wow. Look in your back garden for your superpowers and pull them out, right? Everyone needs to get a gardening kit now for superpowers. Thank you, Christine. That was really nice. So you've got an encouragement of the week that you would like to leave our listeners with as well, which is from Dr. Richard Bartlett. Would you like to read that out?
Oh, I don't know if I have it.
I've got it. Yeah, I've got it here.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello. Yep.
Okay. So you are more than your thoughts, your body, your feelings. You are a swirling vortex of limitless potential who is here to shake things up and create something new that the universe has never seen. I love that. What does that mean to you?
There's so many great, powerful superpower words in that phraseology. Richard, I'm following him all over the place. He's an amazing ADHD advocate and educator. He understands the whirling vortex. That term has been used on me and against me. But to have it used in this positive sense of giving the world something that they've never seen before, I'm down for that. I'm all over it.
I love that. Down for that, all over that. Got your garden of superpowers.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christine. It was an absolute pleasure to have met you last week and connection. And it's a pleasure to have had your story on my platform. So thank you.
I've had a lot of fun. Thanks, Natasha.
No, me too. It's been a good end to my day and a good start to your day.
Yes.
So yet again, we leave Indigos with another inspirational diary and someone, like I said before, that you can relate to in so many ways, because I know I can. And even though me and Christine are a world apart, literally a world apart, and world apart in many ways, there's just so many relations. And I hope that you can find that too. And I just want to say as we finish today that if you would like to hear the world hear your story, then please reach out, because it can make a huge difference, not only to other people, but for yourself. And look out for next week as we launch another episode of either series 1 or series 3. And so we're going to leave that with last thought. So we're signing out. We'll see you soon. And we're out.
Dear diary.
Dear diary.
Dear diary.
Today is ending. I'll check in again tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a brand new beginning.
Good night, sweet dreams.
I think tomorrow will be...
Shh.